The dawn breaks over a vast African savanna, and the world is alive with sounds both beautiful and deadly. The air vibrates with the roar of distant lions, the crackling of bones in the dry grasses, and the hiss of a snake disappearing into the shadows. A group of humans stirs, waking to a world where every step, every choice, could mean life or death. Hunger tightens its grip, thirst scorches their throats, and unseen predators stalk the edges of the land. Above them, the rising sun creeps higher, sealing their fate as the last fragile pools of water begin to fade lifelines that must carry them through the merciless hours ahead. This is not a world for the faint of heart. It is a crucible, and it is ere amid danger and uncertainty that the first Homo sapiens emerged not through a single spark, not by destiny, but through countless generations of adaptation, resilience, and ingenuity. Around 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens began to appear across Africa. Fossils from Morocco, Ethiopia, and South Africa reveal humans with large brain cases, faces tucked under the brow, yet retaining robust features inherited from archaic ancestors. Evolution did not have a plan. There was no guarantee these creatures would survive. Yet through trial, error, and relentless curiosity, they began developing traits that would define their species. Life was unforgiving. The savanna teemed with lions, hyenas, and leopards. Rivers and watering holes brought crocodiles and hippos. Seasonal droughts made water and food scarce. Humans had to navigate poisonous plants, unpredictable storms, and the ever-present threat of famine. To survive, they learned to read the land-tracking animals by spoor, understanding seasonal cycles, and remembering where edible plants and water lay hidden. Homo sapiens quickly discovered the transformative power of fire. Controlling flames provided warmth on cold nights, light in darkness, and protection from predators. It also allowed them to cook food, softening meat and roots, making them easier to digest, and unlocking more energy to fuel growing brains. Some scientists, like Richard Wrangham, argue that cooking was essential for brain expansion, though it worked in concert with social cooperation, hunting strategies, and environmental adaptation. Fire became more than survival. It became a tool of civilization in its earliest form. Stone tools were the extensions of human ingenuity. Flaked stones became sharp blades, hand axes, and eventually finely crafted points. These tools were not simply functional. They reflected planning, precision, and foresight. Imagine a human carefully selecting a piece of flint, striking it with deliberate force, shaping it to cut, scrape, or pierce. Each tool was a manifestation of thought, an early bridge between mind and matter, evidence that Homo sapiens were learning to control the world around them. Daily life was a delicate balance of danger and need. Early humans had to secure food every day, whether by hunting small and large game, gathering roots, fruits, and tubers, or scavenging carcasses left by predators. They faced hunger, injury, and death with every expedition. Predators could ambush them at any moment. Venomous snakes and insects posed hidden threats. Humans needed clothing and shelter to survive extreme heat, cold nights, and torrential rains. Animal hides provided warmth, trees and caves offered shelter, and fire offered protection. Each day was a test of adaptability, intelligence, and cooperation. Social bonds were essential for survival. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest animals, but they excelled at cooperation. Sharing food, warning of predators, and teaching survival skills ensured that groups could endure. Communication evolved from gestures and grunts into complex symbolic systems. Storytelling, a tool for both survival and cohesion, became central. Narratives passed knowledge of hunting strategies, seasonal patterns, and dangerous predators across generations. They also allowed humans to reflect on their world, to imagine, to plan, and to dream. Symbolic behavior emerged gradually. Archaeologists have discovered engraved ochre pieces, perforated shells, and geometric markings over 100,000 years old, predating the famous European cave art by tens of thousands of years. These were not mere decorations. They signaled identity, group cohesion, and abstract thinking. Humans were experimenting with meaning and symbolism, embedding thought into physical objects, a crucial step in cognitive evolution. Migration was another defining feature of early Homo sapiens. Small groups ventured beyond familiar territories, encountering deserts, rivers, forests, and mountains. Some journeys ended in failure, others succeeded, establishing populations in new regions. Around 70,000 to 60,000 years ago, a major dispersal carried humans into Eurasia and Oceania. These pioneers confronted landscapes and climates far different from Africa, from icy plains to monsoon forests, forcing innovation in clothing, shelter, and hunting techniques. They faced new predators and learned to track, trap, and hunt unfamiliar species. These movements were not simple migrations. They were calculated experiments in survival, requiring intelligence, communication, and courage. Encounters with other human species added complexity and danger. Neanderthals, in Europe and Western Asia, were physically robust and adapted to cold climates. Denisovans in Asia possessed genetic traits that modern humans still carry today. Interaction was a mixture of conflict, cooperation, and occasional interbreeding, which left lasting imprints in modern human DNA. These encounters shaped adaptation, survival strategies, and even cognitive development. Homo sapiens innovations were intertwined with the environment. Tools evolved alongside strategies for hunting, fishing, and gathering. Fire and shelter mitigated climate extremes. Social networks expanded beyond immediate family groups, facilitating the sharing of knowledge and resources. Cooperation was no longer just a survival tactic, it became a core component of human identity. Through these daily struggles, humans learned resilience, foresight, and creativity. Hunting required patience and strategy. Gathering required knowledge of plants, seasons, and predators. Weather was unpredictable, and natural disasters could destroy crops or displace populations. Every day, humans faced fear and uncertainty, but each challenge fostered ingenuity and social cohesion. As Homo sapiens adapted and spread across continents, they began leaving more lasting marks. Stone tools became more sophisticated. Shelters more organized, symbolic expression, through beads, ochre, and carvings, reflected growing cognitive complexity. Every object, every tool, and every creative act was an experiment, a step in the gradual emergence of culture and civilization. The story of early Homo sapiens is not of sudden brilliance or destiny, but of persistence, adaptation, and intelligence. Each generation learned from the last, gradually building a species capable of imagination, planning, and reflection. The dawn of Homo sapiens is the story of survival, creativity, and curiosity, a story written in stone, bone, fire, and the human mind. The winds of change swept across the African savannas as Homo sapiens began moving beyond their ancestral homelands. Small groups ventured into unknown territories, each step taking them further from the world they had mastered and deeper into landscapes fraught with danger. The sun was merciless. Storms could strike without warning, and predators, both known and unfamiliar, hunted relentlessly. Yet within these challenges lay opportunity, the promise of new resources, new lands, and the possibility of survival for generations to come. Crossing deserts was one of the earliest trials. Endless sands, baked under the sun, and offered little water or shelter. Humans had to learn to track scarce sources of food and water, to move with the seasons, and to conserve energy in ways that no other species had perfected. Survival required acute observation of the environment, noticing subtle changes in vegetation, following the tracks of migrating animals, and understanding the behavior of predators and prey alike. Each journey demanded courage, patience, and extraordinary cooperation. When humans reached Europe and Western Asia, they met formidable relatives. Neanderthals, taller, stockier, and physically stronger. Neanderthals were adapted to cold climates and were skilled hunters of large game. The encounters were tense and unpredictable, sometimes violent, sometimes cooperative. These interactions left a genetic imprint that survives in modern humans outside Africa. Up to 2% of the DNA of Europeans and Asians comes from Neanderthals. Humans were learning not only to adapt to new environments, but to navigate complex social landscapes, negotiating coexistence with another intelligent species. In Asia, Denisovans left their own mark, sometimes interbreeding with Homo sapiens, contributing genetic variations that helped humans adapt to high altitudes and other environmental pressures. These encounters were not merely historical footnotes. They reshaped the trajectory of human adaptation and evolution. Surviving in new climates, hunting unfamiliar prey, and coexisting with other humans demanded unprecedented levels of intelligence, communication, and planning. Daily life during migration was a constant struggle for survival. Each day brought the need to secure food and water, to avoid predators, and to protect families and belongings. Hunting required knowledge of animal behavior, stealth, and coordination. Gathering plants demanded memory and understanding of seasonal growth cycles. Even shelter was a challenge. Humans built temporary structures from branches, hides, and rocks, or took refuge in caves. Fire became indispensable not only for cooking and warmth, but also for warding off predators during the long, cold nights. Clothing, fashioned from animal hides and furs, protected them from biting cold and sunburn, but it also required constant maintenance and repair. Fear was a constant companion. Predators prowled, insects carried disease, and accidents during hunting could be fatal. Sudden storms, floods, or fires could destroy a camp in minutes. Yet these dangers fostered innovation and cooperation. Humans learned to communicate threats, organize hunts, and divide labor. Groups that could plan, share knowledge, and act collectively were far more likely to survive than isolated individuals. This was the crucible in which social intelligence and culture evolved. Innovation accelerated as humans adapted to new landscapes. In Europe, they hunted reindeer, mammoth, and bison, developing spears, thrusting points, and traps. In Asia, they navigated dense forests and river valleys, crafting specialized tools for fishing and small game hunting. Each tool tells a story of observation, experimentation, and problem solving. Humans learned to store food, sharpen and maintain implements, and create tools suited for specific tasks. Knowledge became cumulative. Each generation improved upon the previous, a hallmark of human culture. Symbolic thought flourished in parallel with practical innovation. Early humans carved objects, painted on rock surfaces, and decorated themselves with beads. These actions reflected not only aesthetic expression, but social communication, group identity, and memory. Evidence from African sites shows engraved ochre pieces and shell beads from over 100,000 years ago. These objects hinted rituals, social hierarchies, and abstract thinking. Humans were building not only tools and shelters, but also culture, belief, and imagination. Communication and cooperation were more critical than ever. Migrating groups had to plan hunts, share scarce resources, and maintain social cohesion. Storytelling was not. Entertainment, it was survival. Narratives encoded knowledge about predators, migration routes, medieval plants, and weather patterns. They also passed on social norms and ethical behavior, strengthening bonds and teaching young humans the skills necessary to endure. Language, though rudimentary at first, became a crucial evolutionary advantage. Weather posed a constant threat. Ice sheets covered northern Europe, requiring humans to innovate in clothing, shelter, and fire use. Monsoon rains in Asia demanded waterproof shelters and strategies to store dry food. Wind, heat, and cold-tested endurance. Humans survived by observing, adapting, and collaborating. Communities that could pool knowledge and resources thrived. Those that could not perished. Adaptation was both a mental and a physical challenge, shaping cognitive capacities as much as survival skills. Migration also sparked creativity and cultural experimentation. Humans developed musical instruments, such as flutes carved from bone, and created portable art to carry meaning across space. Tools became multifunctional, combining cutting, scraping, and hunting functions. Cooking methods evolved to include roasting over fire and boiling in heated water containers made from stone or hollowed wood. Every innovation reflected careful observation, trial and error, and planning skills honed under the constant pressure of survival. As humans spread across continents, they began altering their environments. Controlled use of fire transformed landscapes, clearing undergrowth, and enabling easier hunting. Early human footprints and campsites reveal evidence of organization, cooperation, and foresight. Humans were no longer passive participants. They were shaping the world around them to meet their needs. Each innovation reduced risk, increased survival chances, and allowed the accumulation of more complex social behaviors. The evolution of social structures was central to survival. Leadership, cooperation, conflict resolution, and resource management became increasingly sophisticated. Bands organized hunting parties, shared food across kin and non-kin, and defended territories from rival groups or predators. These systems were not formalized governments, but emergent social structures that enabled collective survival. Knowledge, from toolmaking to migratory routes, was stored and passed down with remarkable fidelity, creating a foundation for cumulative culture. By the time humans reached Australia, Southeast Asia, and the far reaches of Eurasia, they had become masters of adaptation. Crossing open waters in primitive boats, they faced unknown predators and unpredictable currents. They tamed fire, clothing, tools, and social cooperation to conquer ecosystems that no other species could. Their ingenuity, curiosity, and cooperation turned the threat-laden world into a landscape of possibility. Every step of this journey was fraught with fear, risk, and hardship. Yet these same pressures honed human cognition, creativity, and social intelligence. The need for food, water, shelter, protection, and communication forged a species capable of extraordinary problem-solving, imagination, and collaboration. Survival was never guaranteed, but humans had learned to anticipate, plan, and work together in ways that no other species had. The story of migration is also the story of cultural tools, symbols, and stories spread, mixed, and transformed. Knowledge accumulated over generations, building more sophisticated societies, enhancing survival, and deepening the human experience. Humans were learning not just to endure, but to thrive. They were shaping landscapes, manipulating materials, and creating social networks that extended far beyond their immediate families. This chapter of Homo Sapiens' journey, filled with danger, adaptation, and innovation, sets the stage for the rise of civilization. From the frozen plains of Europe to the tropical forests of Asia, humans proved that intelligence, collaboration, and imagination could overcome adversity. The migration of Homo sapiens was more than the spread of a species. It was the expansion of curiosity, creativity, and culture across the globe. As the last waves of migration settled across continents, the world of Homo sapiens transformed. What had once been a fragile existence, hunting, gathering, and fleeing predators, evolved into communities, villages, and the first sparks of civilization. Yet survival was never guaranteed. Humans faced environmental extremes, unpredictable climates, disease, and conflict. Every harvest, every hunt, every decision carried the weight of life and death. It was a world that demanded vigilance, courage, and ingenuity. In the fertile valleys of Mesopotamia, humans planted seeds of agriculture, cultivating wheat, barley, and legumes. Irrigation systems were dug by hand, carefully channeling rivers to feed communities. In the Nile Valley, floods brought fertile silt, and humans learned to predict cycles and store surplus food. Across the Indus Valley, carefully planned cities emerged with streets, drainage systems, and communal spaces. Every act from planting to building was an extension of the intelligence honed through millennia of survival in hostile landscapes. Daily life in these early settlements was both arduous and extraordinary. Farmers worked from dawn to dusk, guarding against crop failure, pests, and flooding. Hunters ventured into forests and plains to supplement diets, always mindful of predators. Communities built shelters from mud, wood, and reeds, crafting clothing from animal hides, woven fibers, and plant materials. Fire, mastered long ago, remained essential for cooking, warmth, and protection. Fear was never absent, but humans had learned to manage it with planning, cooperation, and ingenuity. Social structures became increasingly complex. Leadership roles emerged for coordination of labor and defense. Rituals, ceremonies, and communal gatherings strengthened cohesion and reinforced shared knowledge. Storytelling evolved into written symbols cuneiform in Mesopotamia, hieroglyphs along the Nile, and early scripts in the Indus Valley. Writing enabled knowledge to persist beyond individual memory, transforming human culture. Laws, trade records, and mythologies were now inscribed, creating continuity across generations. Technology advanced alongside society. Stone tools were replaced by copper and bronze, then iron, Wheels and plows revolutionized transport and agriculture. Boats allowed humans to cross rivers and seas, extending trade and exploration. Humans began to manipulate their environments, deliberately terracing hillsides, controlling rivers, and clearing forests for settlements. They were no longer passive survivors. They were engineers, planners, and creators, shaping the world to sustain larger populations. Cultural and artistic expression flourished. Humans painted, sculpted, and made musical instruments. Ornaments, figurines, and intricate carvings reflected both aesthetic expression and social identity. Symbolic thought, first glimpsed in African ochre engravings and beads, had evolved into sophisticated culture that shaped morality, social cohesion, and the human understanding of the universe. Music, dance, storytelling, and ritual strengthened group identity, teaching lessons, celebrating life, and coping with fear, death, and uncertainty. Humans were expanding across the globe, encountering new climates, landscapes, and species. In colder regions, clothing became insulated and layered. Shelters were insulated or built in caves. In hotter regions, lightweight fabrics and sun-protective structures evolved. Seasonal migrations and resource tracking remained crucial, echoing patterns established during earlier journeys out of Africa. Every adaptation required observation, experimentation, and communication, a testament to the species' intelligence and resilience. Trade and social exchange linked distant communities, creating networks that transmitted not only goods, but ideas. Knowledge of metallurgy, agriculture, and medicine spread across regions. Humans learned from each other, adapting technologies to local conditions. The sharing of knowledge created cumulative culture, allowing societies to grow faster than any individual mind could achieve alone. Civilization became a networked achievement, the result of collaboration across space and generations. Yet the path of progress was neither smooth nor guaranteed. Famine, epidemics, and conflict continually tested human ingenuity. Humans learned to store food, manage resources, and develop early forms of governance. The ability to anticipate risk, collaborate socially, and create systems of law and trade allowed humans to endure. Intelligence, planning, and cooperation were now as essential as strength or speed had been on the savannas of Africa. Reflection and curiosity remained central. Humans pondered the stars, observed animal migrations, and tracked seasonal cycles. They asked questions about life, death, and their place in the world. Philosophy, astronomy, and mathematics emerged from these inquiries, driven by the same curiosity that once allowed early humans to track, pray, or predict weather. Knowledge became not only a tool for survival, but a medium for understanding the universe and our role within it. The story of Homo sapiens is not a straight line from danger to domination. It is a tapestry woven from adaptation, resilience, experimentation, and creativity. Every human, from the earliest hunter-gatherer to the first city builder, contributed to this unfolding narrative. Survival depended not solely on physical strength, but on intelligence, collaboration, and imagination. Humans thrived because they could innovate, communicate, and cooperate in ways no other species had. Modern humans inherit this legacy. Within each of us are the genes, the knowledge, and the stories of countless generations. Our curiosity, resilience, and creativity are echoes of survival in harsh savannas, icy plains, and dense forests. Civilization is built upon the foundations laid by those who risked hunger, predators, and disease, experimenting with tools, fire, and culture to shape a life beyond mere survival. Every discovery, every act of creation, and every challenge overcome is part of an ongoing narrative. The story of Homo sapiens is still being written, not in fossils or artifacts alone, but in our choices, innovations, and interactions today. Our impact on the planet, our advancements in knowledge and technology, and our capacity for reflection and empathy extend the journey of the species. This journey is also a reminder. Intelligence and ingenuity carry responsibility. Humans can manipulate ecosystems, create societies, and harness energy on a planetary scale. But the same traits that allowed survival curiosity, foresight, collaboration must guide. Ethical choices to ensure sustainability. Survival is no longer only a personal matter. It is collective. The species' continued success depends on knowledge, cooperation, and wisdom. As we look back, the human story inspires reflection. From African savannas to global cities, from simple stone tools to telescopes and digital networks, Homo sapiens have repeatedly transformed themselves and the world. Every act of learning, every artistic expression, and every technological breakthrough is a chapter in the ongoing saga of humanity. Engage with this story. Carry forward the curiosity, courage, and collaboration that have defined our species. Share knowledge, protect the environment, and contribute to collective understanding. The story of Homo sapiens is far from complete, and each individual plays a role in shaping its next chapter. Remember, humans survived when others could not, because they adapted, imagined, and cooperated. They thrived because they were curious, resilient, and creative. That legacy is ours. It is our inheritance and our responsibility. Subscribe to explore more stories from the deep past of humanity. Leave a comment and share your perspective. Reflect on the legacy passed down through countless generations and the future we are shaping today. The human story is defined by survival, creativity, and transformation. Its next chapter has yet to be written.